Hello everyone, welcome back to Morgan's Movie Collection. 1934's 20th Century is another screwball comedy I watched for the first time recently, and a foundational, formative one from the year when this subgenre really began to develop. It's also definitely one of the hammiest movies I've seen in ages, and wonderfully so. I mean, if this level of performance was in a movie that wanted to take itself seriously, a serious drama, a melodrama, even a serious romance movie, it would just come off as completely absurd. But because we're living in that chaotic realm of screwball comedy, it is just absolutely pitch perfect. And we have Carole Lombard in this movie, who, we and her really have to thank this movie for finding her niche for herself. She'd had a career before 1934, kind of bouncing between genres, never quite finding what her speciality was, until Howard Hawks comes along with 20th Century, creates the screwball comedy for her, and she just rolls with it then. And obviously, sadly, tragically, her life and career was cut short in 1942, which is why perhaps she's not as remembered today as I think she deserves to be, and she certainly should be, because she didn't get the chance to have that decades and decades long career, which I think she deserved. So, it's important to look at these movies, to go back to movies like this, and really find gems in there that, yes, are remembered to a degree, but, are maybe not known by the general public enough, and help that world of discovery. That's what we love doing. But Carole Lombard is so good in this movie. She's bringing so much physicality, so much craziness, the kind of loud eccentricity, but ultimately still with sweetness in there, that she was just phenomenal at. And she's playing Lily Garland in this movie, an up-and-coming actress, a star on the rise. And she's bringing a level of glamour to it as well. And I think this comes from her natural beauty and style. But it all just fits really, really perfectly. I love Carole Lombard, and I love her in this movie. She's not overshadowed by her male lead, because I think that's an unfair word. It diminishes what she's doing. But our male lead in this movie is John Barrymore, who is, obviously a theatre actor, silent actor, incredibly successful, and didn't suffer what many other silent actors suffered moving into talking pictures. He took talking pictures in his stride. He had a great career in talkies, as well as the silent, and as well as on the theatre. And I think it's because he has this really clear projection in his voice. And in this movie, he's able to bring that theatricality, and make it be believable. I mean, it's incredibly over the top in this movie, but like I've said, it just fits the tone. It's not a movie to be taken seriously. It's a ridiculously unpredictable movie. Chaos on screen is the perfect depiction, or is the perfect sentence to use to describe this movie, to describe 20th Century. And John Barrymore's level of absolute hamminess, of just kind of a lunatic energy that's just emanating from him constantly in this movie, gesticulating everywhere, contorting his face in ridiculous ways, using his entire body in his performance. I had to go and watch his transformation scene from his 1920 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, just to get a bit more of that John Barrymore body performance, because I think that transformation scene is one of the great body performances, full body performances you could possibly wish for. And he is an absolute shining light in this movie, and Lombard's matching him for an awful lot of it, considering this is her first time really finding her level of physicality that she would go on to, have a great little career in doing. She's really matching him, and it's a strange pairing. It's kind of a generational gap pairing. There's romance in this movie to a degree, but we're not dealing with a Lubitsch movie like we were dealing with in the last video with Bluebeard's Eighth Wife. Romance is still a part of this movie, but it is not the central focus. The central focus is just the relationship, primarily the working relationship, between John Barrymore as this theatre impresario, who's just absolutely crazy, and Lily Garland, played by Lombard, who is his star on the rise. They have success after success, all the while having a tempestuous relationship with each other that is full of arguments, full of squabbling and shouting over the top of each other, and that's where the Howard Hawks-ism of this movie really comes into play. It is the shouting over the top of each other. We're not dealing with a script here that is defined. We're dealing with improvisation, ad-lib to a degree that was very much encouraged in this movie, and Howard Hawks would go on to kind of, whether you want to say perfect or certainly, develop in later years. I'm thinking 4 years after this, with these two guys behind me in Bringing Up Baby, squabbling all the time, feeling completely manic, shouting over the top of each other. And perhaps even better, it's not Howard Hawks, is it? I always get confused. His Girl Friday, again with Cary Grant, but with Rosalind Russell opposite, in probably the best movie of shouting over the top of each other I can think of now. But there's so much of that in this movie. It is, again, it's just another complete joy to watch. They have ultimately an argument after success in the theatre, which causes Lombard to go off in this movie, become a Hollywood star, and Barrymore's character to really go within himself. He continues to direct plays, bombs, and desperately wants his star back. The final act is on the 20th Century train from Chicago to New York, I think it is, and they both happen to be there, and he spends that entire final act trying to manipulate ways to get her to sign a contract to say she'll work with him again, because then it'll all be okay in John Barrymore's eyes, or in Oscar Jaffe's eyes, who is the character he's playing. There's a great scene where he's even pretending to be on his deathbed. He's pretending to die, and because there's still some level of affection that Lily Garland has for Jaffe in this scene, in throughout this movie, that she is distraught when she learns that he is on his deathbed. And she goes in and she's, really crying It's really an awful situation. Although, of course, Barrymore's playing it remarkably over the top. And his right-hand men, Walter Connolly and Roscoe Carnes in this movie, are giving just constant reactionary performances to the craziness that is coming out of Barrymore. Pretty decent supporting performances, to be fair. But this scene where he's pretending to be dying, and at the end of it ends up getting Lombard to sign this contract, and just immediately stands up with a massive smile on his face as though he's won the day. An argument follows after that, and we even end the movie almost right where we begin the movie. The relationship between the two of them almost doesn't go anywhere. It just comes full circle to the point where you can't help but laugh. You can't help but smile that somehow these two characters are always going to end up in the same situation. That might be destiny at play, it might be fate, whatever you may think of it. It is just, it's hilarious. It is a delightful movie. A completely crazy movie. And just absolutely wonderful. You can get the Blu-ray from Indicator, which comes with a really great feature look at Lombard's career from Lucy Bolton. It is, as well as a bunch of other features. I mean, you've got a full commentary, trailers, images. Peter Bogdanovich even has a little bit to say on these features, a radio adaptation, loads of great stuff in this Blu-ray from Indicator. Definitely go and seek out this movie. So yes, go and watch it. 20th Century from 1934, directed by Howard Hawks, starring Carole Lombard and John Barrymore. Until next time, that is going to do it. Goodbye.